We're back. This is Richard Solomon, Taking Care of Business, TCBRadio.com, and on YouTube at TCBRadio.WCWP. Welcome to our show. This is one of the few times we're actually on location, and we are at location with the Great Throwdini, who is an unbelievable performer. He holds, how many world records do you hold?
I've set or broken 40 world records.
Right, and those include?
Let's see, simply stated, fastest, meaning I've been videoed at doing 3 knives within a second. Most, I've thrown 144 around my assistant in 1 minute. Distance, I've thrown a 14-inch knife into a 12-inch round at 101 feet.
Wow.
And I have records also for the wheel of death, doing it a little faster than a second per turn, throwing 2 knives per revolution around someone. It was basic stuff.
Basic stuff. Now, you have a website, right?
Yes.
Knifethrower.com. And on that website, you'll actually see all these great videos of you being on television and performing all kinds of things and being in all kinds of television shows. You want to talk about some of the appearances that you've been on? Because these are major national shows.
Oh, yes. Good Morning America. Conan O'Brien. I was a guest on that show, actually. Late Night with David Letterman. Or it's Late Show. One of them is Late Night, one of them is Late Show. I don't remember. Oh gosh, it goes on and on. I was at the site the other day, like trying to fix a couple things up, and I looked, and I'm looking at it. I had like 4 columns, this high, of like maybe 10 things in a column of the major TV shows, not even the little stuff, and there must have been 30 or 40 of them on there. And I said to myself, "Wow, I did that."
That's a major accomplishment.
Yeah, and, you know.
You have a lot to be proud of, especially because
Thank you.
You know, there aren't a lot of people who do what you do, which is interesting because when you think of entertainment broadly, most people always are wondering, I'd like to do something different. It's something other than a movie or other than a comedy club. All those are great, but people want to see something different, and there's nothing more exciting than seeing something like your performances, which are exciting and sort of a little stressful.
Yes, in the blurb for Monday Night Magic, it says, sit back and relax if you can. As Throwdini throws knives, tomahawks, and axes and machetes within inches of his scantily clad target. So,
who are some of the people that you've performed with on stage or as part of a large performance?
Some of them have been in like major magic venues. In Indonesia, I worked with Deddy Corbuzier, who's their top magician. Peter Marvey was in that show. He's from Sweden, I believe. And in this country, gosh, some of the top mentalists have been in some of the same magic venues. The Amazing Jonathan. Let's see, David Oliver, Max Maven. I don't know. The list goes on and on.
Do you do research into the history of magic, illusion, and performance by the greats like Houdini and all those guys?
Yes, at times I'll get interested in one particular performer. There was one at the turn of the century, Gustavo Arcaris, and he was the man back then.
What was he known for? Because I don't know that one.
He was a professional knife thrower. Okay. And he did circus, sideshow. He did everything. And if you look him up and you go back, you'll find all kinds of pictures of this guy in cabinet cards and posters of him. He was just all over the place. He's probably like the Houdini of his time. Wow. For knife throwers. So I enjoy researching him.
What was it about Houdini for you that captures your imagination even now, after all these years of knowing him and knowing his work and having a piece of his history with you?
I guess that the thing that makes him a little different and maybe stand out a little more, was he was the absolute best at marketing himself. He'd come up with all kinds of schemes to do pre-show stuff before he got to the town, and he'd come in, he'd roll into town, and there'd be thousands of people to see him perform some kind of hanging escape or a water escape or something.
And this is all before social media, so
yes.
There was no Houdini.com or no. at Houdini, Twitter, or any of that stuff.
So besides all his talents, he was just incredibly brilliant at marketing his act.
Right. So speaking of marketing, what do you do to get the word out about your performances? You teach, you do performances, and you're also part of the whole larger entertainment world.
Yes, I think I'd have to give the internet credit for that. My website is knifethrow.com, and I have lots of videos of me on TV, in movies, on stage, interviews, all kinds of stuff that's there that seems to show up when you do a search. I've put a lot of videos on YouTube and Vimeo, and a lot of times I'll get a call from someone from Europe or Asia, and they say, would you like to be in this show? And I start talking to them, and I invariably say, how did you find me? They said, well, I was searching knife throwers on the internet, and
there you are.
No matter where I go, Throwdini shows up. You're just like, you're the top hit no matter what I do. And then they start looking at what I've done, and they go, okay, we want you.
Wow. So do you also do bookings of all kinds of entertainment and involved with the whole entertainment field?
Well,
do you know a lot of different entertainers, both locally and,
Yes.
And do you ever help arrange for entertainers to be parts of venues or places like that?
Yes. For example, I'm working with Billy and Rory for their club. I think it's 3500 Sunrise Highway.
In Wantagh.
In Wantagh.
Right.
And I'm essentially their booking agent.
Okay.
With the many contacts that I have in all the variety arts, they've asked me to pull the acts together for their venue.
So what kind of acts would you be talking to, and what are these? Because you're a very unique person. So what other kinds of really unique or interesting acts do you have?
It'd be essentially from the variety arts, magicians, mentalists, stilt walkers, people that swallow swords, lie on glass, strongmen, hula hoop artists, jugglers. Boy, I can go on and on.
No, please.
I have to think about certain kinds of bands.
So who are some of your favorites? Like, I know, it's like you can't ask like who's your favorite child, but who are some of your more, people that you'd love to get into 3500 Sunrise Highway, hopefully in a future show not too far in the future from now?
Well, some of the magicians that I work with at Monday Night Magic.
Such as?
Rocco, who has won FISM, which is the Olympics of Magic. He's
Really?
won that. David Oliver or John Stetson, who are mentalists. Jen Slaw, who's a juggler. A guy from Coney Island Sideshow, Adam Reelman. Aerialists, Ekaterina, contortionist.
Now I know that they at 3500.
Chris McDaniel,
Okay.
Trick Roper. He's the guy that got me started in show business. Definitely Chris McDaniel. But go ahead.
So I noticed that at 3500 Sunrise Highway they raised the roof just so that there could be aerial acts.
Yes.
So have you seen the venue?
I have. It's gorgeous.
Tell me about it.
It's a huge stage with a high ceiling. The audience is basically, it's a dinner show type of venue, so that they can sit there and have drinks, eat dinner, and at the same time watching some of the world-class acts right on stage, right in front of them.
See, you know what's really cool about that? Long Island really needs something kind of different, and I think this would provide a real nice venue for that.
There's nothing like it.
Right. And you know what? Even though we have a lot of entertainment venues sort of around, the casinos and the racinos and all kinds in Manhattan, you don't really see a lot of that kind of entertainment. You just see, jazz clubs, dinner theater, regular theater. But this really would be something special, wouldn't it?
It would be. It would be a first on Long Island.
Right. And how did you transition to becoming sort of a solo artist, to becoming part of, I'd say, the entertainment industry, or the live entertainment industry, which is a really different concept?
Real simple. I was a competition thrower for 5 years. And right in that fifth year, after I had won some nationals and some world championship, Time Out New York did an article about me. And, I was dressed up like a competitive knife thrower wearing cowboy clothes, the Western, because it's a Western art. And they came and did a piece about me. And Chris McDaniel, who's this trick roper bullwhip artist, been a performer all his life, said, he saw the article and he contacted me and said, I'd love you to teach me how to do some knife throwing. I'd like to add it to my act. So I met him. I showed him the knife throwing. He took to it right away. And he said, next week I'm performing at Monday Night Magic. Why don't you come down and see the show? Yeah, okay, thanks. He's getting me a couple comps. I'd love to see the show. And then he said, well, do you want to be a competition thrower all your life, or do you want to perform like the old-time impalement artists? Paul Lacrosse, Larry Szyzewski, Chi-Chi Whitecloud. He's naming off all these greats. Paul Braun. And I said, I'm not that interested. I'm happy as a competition thrower. He said, well, here, take a look at this tape. He gives me a tape, 45 minutes of all the old acts, stuff that he's collecting. So I have this tape with me. I come home, I look at it, and I'm saying, wow, I can do that. I can do that. So right at the time that we were going to meet at the show in Manhattan, I brought him a tape of me doing everything the impalement artists were doing. All the profiles they're doing around the girl, but I did it around the dummy because I didn't have an act.
Right.
I bought a dummy and I threw around the dummy.
Like a crash test dummy?
Yes, exactly. A mannequin from a clothing mannequin. So I showed him that I could do everything that they did. And then he says, okay, watch my show tonight. I watched the show. And I said to myself, that's what I'm going to do. Enough of the bullseye busting, leaving it behind me. And I spoke to Chris about it, and he said, okay, I hope you work up an act. And that rudiment that we started, that act right there has been the foundation for the act that I'm doing today. Some, 14 years I'm on stage now.
So do you have a regular act that people can see?
Yes.
And where's that?
Well, I perform at Monday Night Magic in Manhattan.
No, but where is that specifically? What's the location? What's the address? Where in Manhattan is it?
Oh, it's at the Players Theater.
Okay.
In Manhattan.
Okay.
I'm performing next month at the Cutting Room.
Okay.
In another magic venue. I can't think of the name of that. It'll come to me in a moment. At the House of Yes, a show called Lust. And actually, the big one, in 2 weeks from a couple days ago, opening on March 24th, will be in the 2016, March 24th, at the Borgata Hotel and Casino in Atlantic City, in a show called the Great American Variety Show.
Oh, that should be interesting. So what does that encompass?
Well, I'm giving them something that no one else in the world is doing.
Which is?
The Veiled Wheel of Death.
Wow. In fact, over there is, we'll do a shot of that, but you have a picture of the Great Throwdini and the Veiled Double Wheel of Death, maximum risk. We'll get a cutout shot of that and put that in as B-roll, as they say.
Terrific. Well, there's a little story behind that.
I want to hear it.
Oh, okay. The Wheel of Death was brought to the United States in 1938 by Joe Gibson, German knife thrower, who came here to tour with Ringling Brothers, Barnum, and Bailey Circus. Not only did he bring the wheel, but he did it veiled, meaning 6 foot diameter wheel but there's a 6-foot paper, the same shape as the wheel, in front of the girl. Cannot see her. Cannot see through that paper.
So no cheating, no see-through.
No cheating. So it's very dangerous. Between 1938 and sometime in the 70s, only 3 people did the veiled wheel.
Dared to do it. Yeah.
Dared to do it. The act in the middle actually put their logo on the paper, which is nonsense. It's like, well, why even put the paper there if you're going to put your logo on it? We know where the girl is. So then the third one that did it was Fritz Brumbach in the 70s. And as far as I can tell, he only did it one time. Never did it again after that. I could be wrong, but that's what I heard.
Did he get a little freaked out?
No, his wife probably said, if you ever do that again, I'll kill you. That was his wife was the target. And then, so from the 70s up until 2010, some 30-something years, almost 30, 35 years, whatever it was, no one did the veiled wheel. And an Irish filmmaker had contacted me about wanting to do a film about me and my assistants. And he said, but I'd really want to make this interesting. I want you to do something for me that no one else does. I want to see you practicing for it. I want to see the excitement of this groundbreaking thing. And you know, all the time that I've been in knife throwing, always in the back of my mind was the veiled wheel of death. How could that be done? It's extremely difficult, it's extremely dangerous, and it makes sense that only a few people have ever done it.
Now you don't do that one blindfolded, do you?
Well, it's almost the same thing since the paper is there.
No, but you don't do it
But
blindfolded.
No, not blindfolded.
Double, you know, that way
No,
it's
that's a
almost
different
like,
stunt.
Right, because I've seen that one too,
Yes.
and that's a phenomenal piece of artistry.
So around 2010, I brought that back. He came and he filmed me practicing for it. The Wall Street Journal did an article about me practicing for the wheel, the veiled wheel. And then a couple years after that, 2010 I did it. In between, I had done episode 1 of season 3 of Bored to Death with Jason Schwartzman, Galifianakis, Ted Danson. And we were reproducing a scene that I did for the writer of that show when he released a new book. And he did this book release at a bookstore in Brooklyn. And he asked me to come down. Instead of doing a ribbon cutting for his book, he said, I want you to throw knives around me for my book. So I did it.
That's different.
It's very different.
That is really different.
And they wrote that scene into the show of Bored to Death on HBO. I brought my wheel for the shoot, but you know, it's a homemade wheel. I didn't know what I was doing. It's a good wheel. I still use it today.
What do you use to make it spin?
Well, let me get that. So they wanted to mount a camera on the wheel, a regular TV camera, which is huge, so that they'd have Jason Schwartzman's face looking in the camera as he's spinning.
Wow.
When they put my wheel up for this and they put the camera on it, it started to move the whole thing. It started to wobble because it just wasn't strong enough to deal with the actor and the camera. So we did all the shooting except that one scene with the camera on it. And they built a duplicate wheel to mine. Big, strong, heavy thing with 3-inch angle iron instead of the 1-inch angle iron I use as the frame. They mounted the camera, they shot the thing, they called me up and said, yeah, we got this wheel, you know, we built, do you want it? I'm thinking about it, I'm saying, what do I need another wheel for? But I'll take it anyway. You never know. I bring this thing home, I look at it, it weighs a ton. It's so strong. And I'm thinking to myself, that can hold 2 girls. One head up, one head down, right next to each other in the middle of the wheel. And then, of course, being who I am, 2 girls wasn't good enough. I had to do it 2 girls veiled.
Wow. So hold on.
So-
So we'll be right back. This is Richard Solomon taking care of business with the Great Throwdini, and we're going to continue with the the veiled double wheel of death when we come back. Keep it locked right here. Thanks.